once again took center stage in Quebec over the weekend. It began with a front page story on Saturday. Boy, if you haven't seen the front page of Journal de Montréal, it was an eye-opener. It caused a lot of debate. It showed a Quebec fleur-de-lis inside like a Canadian bear trap, right? And it said that the trap has been set basically by Ottawa when it comes to the demographic future of this country. Now, there is a Canadian goal of 100 million Canadians by 2100. And of course, that caused some debate. Of course, you can look at Journal de Montréal and all of their columnists who also opined on the news story of the day. But I also read the actual column by the journalist, Guillaume Saint-Pierre, who did the piece. And I think there's a lot to talk about here. To talk about this and more, let's go to David Heurtel, former Quebec Liberal cabinet minister, knows a thing or two about immigration, and he's on the line right now. Hi, David.
Hi, Elias.
So I almost want to talk about them separately because I know the front page was meant to poke the bear. But I also know, having worked in the business, that the journalists that write these stories have nothing to do with the front page, have nothing to do with the headlines. This journalist that wrote the story, Guillaume Saint-Pierre, I've looked at his history of writings. He will cover everything. He'll cover environmental causes. He'll cover things that make Trudeau look good, things that make Trudeau look bad. I mean, he's all over the place. He's a journalist. He does everything here. So maybe we can let's talk about the nationalist side of things first. Let's talk about the headline. Let's talk about the front page. Your take on that before we get into the actual subject matter.
Well, my take is that this is very serious because as you're correctly pointing out, I don't think we need to look at the journalist per se. I mean, this guy he's covering the political beat and he's being told what to cover and what to do. But this, as you said earlier, there's a lot of Montréal bringing in the columnists, having all the columnists, the major superstar columnists of the Journal de Montréal writing on this. This is a coordinated effort. This was several weeks in the planning because, as you saw today, there are follow-ups today in the Journal de Montréal as well. So this is not just something that was decided 24, 48 hours before. So this was a major coordinated effort that was determined at the top of the editorial decision-making structure of the Journal de Montréal. And it's very serious what this says. I mean, yes, it's about getting eyeballs and reactions, but seriously, Elias, what this does, because now, if you look at it from the perspective of the nationalist movement, I mean, the CQ has delivered on language, right? From their perspective. I mean, with 96, they delivered on religious signs. With 21 in the last CQ mandate, what is there left to keep the fire burning on the nationalist side? Well, now it's immigration, but what's more, very serious and very troubling in this new line that is being proposed since Saturday is the fact that now there's some sort of conspiracy theory that is developing. This evolution of elsewhere was called in the U.S. and in Europe was called replacement theory, that there is some sort of conspiracy to weed out original Europeans, original French, and Mathieu Bocoté, the Journal de Montréal columnist, one of the star columnists that is writing on this Saturday, for example, is a big proponent of replacement theory in Europe. He's on cable news, on the right-wing cable news channel in France, espousing replacement theory. And this is factual here, Elias. So what you're seeing here is a very dangerous tact taken by the Journal de Montréal, trying to say that because we are looking collectively at the idea of making sure we have a strong enough population across the country to continue our economic development. Somehow there is a conspiracy out there to drown out the French component of Canada.
So, David, on the end of editorial aspects of all of this, it is not lost. Go look at Quebecor's TV news outlets this morning. Go look at LCN, right? And so that whole mechanism, that wheel, is continuing on TV and in print today. So there's the thing. But let me just ask you about this, right? Because the Century Initiative is a real thing. it has been lobbying the federal government hard under the economic guise. Hey, if you want Canada to be an economic power, we need to up our immigration here. But if you look at the board, there's almost no Quebecers, and the two people I could find that had a Quebec link, they've led their careers and lives in Toronto. And the Century Initiative doesn't talk about language at all. Those are two real things. And I get your point, right? Like the columnist mechanism, the columnist side of things, that's where I go ick at times. But the actual news item here that there seemingly is something happening where there's lobbying going on to increase immigration to levels, and they don't care about how much of it is French. I can imagine why someone who is concerned about the future of French would be worried about that.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you as well, but that's a different thing. And I think it's important we need to have a conversation about how the federal government, which has increased significantly the immigration goals, getting to over 500,000 a year by 2025, is going to have a definite impact on Quebec and an impact on how, I mean, just demographically, the fact is Quebec, its weight in the Canadian Federation, how it will be represented in the Commons, and that's why there's a lot of Quebecers pushing for a guarantee that Quebec will always have 25% of the seats in the Commons, even though they don't represent 25% of the Canadian population anymore. So I agree with you, and that's where there is a big problem, both with the federal government and the Century Initiatives, because they are not occupying the communications landscape in French Quebec media, and which is bizarre because this is not just something that is pushed by English Canada. I mean, former Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney is on the record saying that we need to get Canada to 75 to 100 million Canadians by the end of the century. This is not something that is just being pushed by English Canada, but you are right. There are consequences. There are positions to be taken here. And what's very troubling is not only the fact that there is these conspiracy theories that ultimately will hurt immigrants here and new Canadians that are already here in Quebec, but also, Elias, the fact that opposition parties, where's the Liberal Party of Quebec here? Where is the Quebec element of the Liberal Party of Canada? They are nowhere. Where's Quebec Solidaire, supposedly
David,
pro-immigration party? They are nowhere on this.
David, this is the perfect question. This is actually the next thing I was going to ask you. So what should the position of the Quebec Liberal Party be on this?
The same that it was when, and I'll turn back, unfortunately this may sound self-serving, but I'll turn it back to when I was immigration minister back in 2017, 2018. By the way, in 2017, when we started linking immigration to economic development, the immigration issue for the then Liberal government went to one of the top 3 worst issues for the government then, to top 10 best issues for the government going into the election campaign. And actually, the only week in 2018, during that campaign in the fall of 2018, where the Liberals actually won the week was the week on immigration, when Legault stumbled. Because the issue here is, yes, we can have more immigration and protect French culture, but it's also tying it into economic development. So you need both. You need protection of the French language and economic development to be part of the equation, supporting more immigration. And the Liberals have left that. They are completely bamboozled. They don't know where they're going. Maybe ultimately because they just don't have the competency. They don't have the people that know what they're talking about right now. But that's where I would go. And it's worked before and it will work again. But you got to occupy the space. And right now, nobody in Quebec is defending that space. And I'm sure Quebecers are willing to hear it and listen to it and follow it if it's explained. But right now, nobody's there. And
I seem to recall Philippe Couillard winning an election in 2014, right? with a kind of similar messaging as well. It can be done.
32% of the vote, Elias, in 2014.
Unbelievable. It's there. It's sitting right there for someone to grab onto. David, hey, thanks so much. I appreciate your time.
Great to be with you as always.
David Heurtel, you hear him all the time on CJ 800 as fill-in host at times, and of course, former Quebec Liberal cabinet minister.